What's going on, folks? Okay, so this is the review for Bleach Volume 2 here. I have some notes written down. This will be spoiler filled. I'll try to keep it light on the spoilers, but it's just my initial review of me reading this volume and what I got from it, some notes, how much I enjoyed it, and we'll just keep it going from there. So, starting off, first impressions, still has some really good humor in here. The panels of the faces that you get to see with the humor, especially in certain types of anime when they have particular faces that you've seen in a multitude of ones. I love that. So with the humor, it's really good. The battle scenes are really good. This volume is definitely battle heavy because it's going over the battle between Rukia, Chad, Ichigo, and this hollow spirit that's pretty much falling around the parakeet that Chad's trying to keep safe for the most part. And there's a boy spirit that's trapped inside of the parakeet as well. But also, you get to see more character development inside of this chapter or this volume as well. So you get more character development from Ichigo, Rukia, Chad, somewhat, Karin. I just found out that that's how you pronunciate her name because I was saying Karen beforehand, but then I watched the first episode of Bleach, and then I got how they actually pronunciated her name. By the way, a little side note: when I watched the first episode of Bleach, I did it after reading all the way up to this volume here, and yeah, it's not how I envisioned it, especially with the voices, and I'm watching it dubbed, so that may be another issue. But yeah, the voices, especially Rukia's voice, it just didn't do it for me. But maybe it'll grow on me. But right now, where I sit, like the manga is much more enjoyable than watching. I may have just been tired. But getting back to the point, volume two. So for the main plot, like I said before, it's revolving around them trying to rescue Chad from the spirit, and then also figuring out like what hollow is actually following them or hunting them down. You get to see that Karin, Ichigo's sister, has a high sensitivity to spirits. So spirits that may be in danger and potentially spirits that are close to her age range. So that's very interesting to see. And for me, I'm thinking like, is she going to develop powers down the line, more powers, or is this more so like a plot point to where it's just that she knows a little bit more about what's going on with Ichigo, and she just hasn't said anything yet, and how that will play out later on down the line. So there's that. So kind of fast forwarding and jumping around a little bit, you get Rukia's chasing down Chad and trying to get him and find him and figure out how to keep him safe away from whatever's following him. And she ends up, because she wasn't paying attention to the hollow, ends up coming up behind her and catching her off guard. Now, in this particular scene, the spirit, she attacks the spirit with this spell, and this panel was so good. I loved it because it was just like this brilliant little high knee looking action that she did on the hollow, and then she cast this spell. And from the initial thought, I'm just like, oh, okay, she has her powers back. But then you see that it has no effect whatsoever because she thinks that she did some damage to the hollow, but it had no effect whatsoever. So now we get to see like, okay, she still doesn't have her powers, and she's still basically helpless in this form that she's in right now. So she can really do nothing to help out in this battle. So it's Chad, it's the parakeet, it's Rukia, and they're on the street and they're fighting this hollow. And well, at least Rukia is attempting to fight this hollow. And then all of a sudden, Rukia looks like she's in danger of pretty much being eaten by this hollow. Chad comes over and punches this hollow, and I'm just like, what? What's going on here? So in my head, at first I was just like, okay, so now Chad can see hollows. I already thought from reading volume one that okay, Chad's really strong, and he's kind of getting involved with spirits from the parakeet, the little boy that's in that parakeet spirit, the spirit that's in the parakeet. I'm more like, okay, Chad's pretty strong, and maybe he actually has some powers. Um, but then you see that it was a lucky punch because then he starts swinging that air. So that was hilarious to me. So, but then you get to see that Rukia kind of tells him where the spirit is, and then he still helps her kind of battle this spirit at the same time. But then once the spirit finds out that he can pretty much get hit by Chad, and that's another thing that kind of like blew my mind is that these spirits they can get hit. Okay, okay. So I thought two theories here. I'm like, okay, these spirits, these hollows, they can get hit by people in general without them having powers. This is what I'm thinking. But they can't if they can't see them, then they don't really know where they are and they can kind of avoid being hit by them. I don't know. But the other theory is just that okay, Chad has a high enough spirit energy, that's where I'm going off of, that he can hit these hollows. Um, yeah, that's kind of a theory there. So it's two theories. They can actually be hit by people, but people won't hit them because they just kind of avoid them, or it's just that Chad spirit energy or people with spirit energy that's high enough they can hit them. So that's where we sit with that. So we'll see as we continue to read more, but that's what we have so far. So they're in this battle, and then the Hollow Spirit actually does this little trick to where it has some type of I call them little leeches or whatnot. They spits them on Chad and Rukia, and then attacking the spirit boy. Not leeches, but actually little miniature parts of itself. It's like little mini demon bugs. That's what I'm gonna call them. I'm calling them demon bugs. Um, so they start attacking him, and basically, like it's a bad situation. And then finally, here comes Ichigo into the scene, and the hero, kind of like that young boy who has this power, and he's kind of I wouldn't even say cocky, but very confident in his abilities and also naive to certain situations. And comes in with his like, ha, I told you to leave them alone type of deal. You know what I mean? So Ichigo comes in, starts to help them out, um, gets into his Soul Reaper form, and then the battle begins between him and the Hollow. And throughout this battle, we get to see two things, like the Hollow performing like just different tricks that they can do, and then also within this volume, we also see that uh, the Soul Society. It's everyone doesn't go to the Soul Society. Basically, everyone will not make it to the Soul Society because this Hollow, particularly, did a very, very bad thing while they were in human form. So they were an actual bad person. They weren't just somebody who turned into a Hollow because they were eaten or because they didn't get exercise, basically, to to the Soul Society soon enough before they turned into a Hollow, or they were still hanging on. So very interesting concept that happened there. So I'm like, okay, now you got the concept of heaven and hell going on here, and then also getting back to the battle, you see Ichigo now. He's asking questions because he knows. Well, he's asking, what did the Hollow do to the boy's mother? And that's when you see, you know, Ichigo, more of his more depth to him as far as like how much he cares for justice, basically. Like no one should be done wrong, especially on his watch. Like he's all about like justice and doing right by others, and which is of course a really good quality that you want in a protagonist or you want in your main character. But also he's very naive in a sense. So you get these leeches that go on him as well, like the Hollow and him in the battle there. But then, of course, Ichigo comes out on top because the Hollow only came out doing tricks, basically. like spitting out these little things and making noises, and they're kind of like little bombs and stuff like that that hit on Ichigo and then also Rukia and the parakeet and Chad. But the Hollow was no match for Ichigo, because Ichigo ended up getting so angry because of what he heard the Hollow did as in a human form to the kid's mother, and pretty much chopped off the tongue so it couldn't make the noise anymore. The the Hollow tried to run away, and Ichigo pretty much cut him down and then attacked him. And then all of a sudden, we see the gates of hell basically come out, and that's when I realized, I'm just like, oh, not everyone will be going to the Soul Society. So you get the concept of, you got heaven and hell there. Um, so battle ends, everyone's saved. The parakeet spirit, they finally say, hey, go with your mom, the little boy spirit, and they exorcise him. And Chad's kind of sad because he wants to be with around the kid. He enjoyed the kid's company. But so we move on and we go to now where, so the next part. Now we get Rukia's pretty much has to get another spirit. Like she needs a new phone, a new pager, a new pager, and then she also needs another body. I believe that's what we were looking at. So she ends up going to the shop, and we get to see these new characters get introduced. We got Kasuki, we got Tasai. I'm gonna butcher these names. Tasai, Genta, Rururu, Ruru, Rururu, 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 Rururu. That's how I'm gonna say those names. So we get these new characters, Rururu and Genta, the two little kids, and that relationship is just so weird to me. I can't stand seeing that the little boy beat up this little girl, and it seems like she's helpless. But I know that's not the case, because you see it in so many different animations where like this innocent looking girl will ends up turning into a monster or something like that. But anyway, so Rukia goes there to the shop, and we see Kasuki, the shop owner, and she's pretty much trying to get new materials. And then she gets also these the spirits is in like these little capsules. Goes back, fast forward, going into school, we get Ichigo, and she's showing Ichigo about how take one of these capsules so that way you can get yourself out of your body and go into Soul Reaper form, and now you have something to inhabit your body, so nobody will be suspicious. Little do we know, this is a defective spirit that ends up going into Ichigo's body, while Ichigo and Rukia are off doing whatever they do, soul reaping and whatnot. And now this spirit is just wreaking havoc all over the place because it's free. And we come to find out this is a mod spirit. We call him Konpaku or something like that. But it's a mod spirit that the Soul Society had created beforehand. The Soul Society created these spirits in order to, they called them fighter spirits, in order to use in the place of Soul Reapers in order to fight the Hollows. But the spirits ended up being defective, and they decide to kill them all off. Very dark. So I'm like, they pretty much created a creation, and then they was like, nah, we don't need you anymore, so we're gonna destroy all of you. So in my head, I'm thinking like, well, that's not right. Um, so I'm also thinking that the Soul Society isn't necessarily like this all great, wonderful, blissful place that you go to, or at least the people that control the Soul Society. So we're starting to get a bigger picture of what the Soul Society actually is. They still have people with flaws, bad judgment, governing bodies, a whole entire society to where people are raised to be these reapers for certain reasons. So we're getting more of a broader perspective of this whole Soul Society thing. But the whole entire thing happens. This mod spirits in Ichigo's body wreaking havoc all over town, and now is looking for women. And then the girls are in the cafeteria, and this scene is hilarious. First of all, the other classmates we get introduced to, the friends, and how obsessed one of the girls are with Orihime. and it's a little awkward. I don't know if it was just like a really close friendship type deal or that girl actually wants Orihime, but yeah, it's a very interesting scenario. But then the spirit pops up through the window, and then everybody's shocked. And then he's looking around, just like, "Oh, I'm in heaven." And then he sees Orihime's breast, and he's just like, he goes over to her, grabs her hand, and then Tatsuki freaks out and just like, "What are you doing? Get off of her!" And then the spirit just like, "Oh, you're attractive too." And that whole entire like interaction, and then they chase the. Well, actually, Ichigo and Rukia finds the spirit, comes in and tries to block him from getting out, but ends up getting out anyway. And then they chase it out, and they're just like, "What is wrong with Ichigo?" But then Orihime is just like, "That wasn't Ichigo." So we kind of get a broader perspective too. She knows that Ichigo would never do something like that to her. Um, at least I'm pretty sure she thinks she knows, or like, there's no way he would actually do that to me. But anyway, so they're chasing the spirit down. The mod spirit is bouncing around, and then we get a flash to Karin and Yuzu at their school, and then they see Ichigo because the mod spirit has really strong legs and can like leap, and they see it jumping over the wall, and Yuzu's waving, and then Karin's like, "That's not Ichigo. Stop what you're doing right there." Um, and then you get to see this once again, this funny panel of Karin turning around and seeing this one other student just looking like, "What was that?" And then Karin walks up and just like, "You saw nothing." And the girl's just like, "Yes, yes, nothing. I saw nothing." I love those facial expressions and like that intimidation like certain characters give to other characters. It's just hilarious to me. I love that part of just the animation that they go with that. Um, so yeah, that's that in that portion. And then the spirit ends up seeing like these kids, and we get a good idea of what the spirit's about. It runs into some kids and sees them playing a game, and just like, "Oh, just delete it, it's okay." Like, so now the mod spirit is getting a flashback kind of how he was treated or they were treated when they were created, and how they were pretty much going to be destroyed. So then it like messes up the kid's game, and then moves along. But then a spirit pops up. He senses a spirit, and it's going after the boys. Spirit comes back, saves the boys. The boys have no clue what's going on. Ends up getting attacked by the hollow spirit. But then Ichigo Rukia comes to the scene, helps out with the spirit, and then defeats pretty much the hollow. But you get the interaction between Ichigo and the Hollow. I mean, not the Hollow, but the mod spirit Khan, and they're just like, well, Ichigo's just like, "Well, what are you doing with my body, and why did you decide to kick the Hollow as well?" It almost seems like you didn't want to destroy any life, or you don't want to destroy any life, because the Hollow spirit was going to land on some ants. So the Hollow, I mean, not the Hollow, but the mod spirit starts to explain the whole scenario that I explained earlier, that he was created and then they were going to destroy them, and he just waited to be destroyed, but it never happened. And then finally they get freedom, and he doesn't feel like anyone should have their life cut short, or everyone should have the right to decide whether they live or die. And I mean, 100%, like that's a so such a true statement, of course. But it's more so like, regardless of what it is, regardless of the form that it takes, a life is a life. So just like that cherishing life regardless of the form. I love it. So Ichigo sees that, but then Kitsuki comes into play and then knocks the spirit out. And now the little ball, and is about to repossess it. And then Rukia takes it and just like, "Well, you can't take this back." And then keeps it for Ichigo, because he sees that Ichigo is, attached to it now, and, feels like they shouldn't be destroyed. And Kasuki's just like, they're not gonna be happy if they find out. And it's like, well, you won't let anybody find out, basically. So that was pretty much the end of volume 2. You end off with that, and now you get. I'm figuring like Kasuki's an interesting character. I don't know what's going on with them or him, and then also his whole entire crew. I'm pretty sure they got some crazy powers or something like that. I don't doubt it. But there's the mystery there. So you're wanting to see what's going to show up with that whole entire crew. Also, you're wanting to see what's going to happen with this mod spirit as well moving forward. The pace of this volume was a lot of action, very action packed. At the beginning, you got introduced to the new characters. Well, not introduced to the new characters, but you got the continuation of them finding Chad and finding the spirit, and then the whole entire battle that went down with that spirit as well. And I forgot to mention, you got to see Ichigo tap into another part of his power that he didn't even know he had, and he's taken for granted. Really, is more of a sense impact power. But Rukia knows that he shouldn't be able to tap into that. And then you also get we get a new character in the mod spirit. We get Kasuki and his whole entire crew. We get to see Chad, and now whether or not he's going to turn into one of the main characters with his abilities and powers and stuff as well. So yeah, we get that whole entire perspective there. It's very action based. Kept it funny, kept it serious. Like, it was serious but funny as well. So it kept it light throughout, even though there were some very serious and dark parts in it. I just love the blend of humor and action that they put into this. But I'll just keep rambling on because this volume is really good. I'm really loving this Bleach series. Definitely going to continue reading the whole entire thing, but for future videos, I'm not just going to be reviewing one volume. I'm going to review a combination of volumes and kind of condense it down a little bit more. And just kind of give like baseline thoughts and what I enjoy about it, and some of the cool parts about it, what I'm enjoying, the humor, and just some of my thoughts, like deeper review thoughts on like character development and stuff like that. But there you have it, volume 2. Loved it. And if you have read the series, I recommend maybe going back reading it again. If you haven't watched the anime, I recommend watching the anime. But I'm really enjoying the manga. All right. So I'll see you in the next video.